Have you ever had that moment, usually late at night when the world goes quiet, where you suddenly realize the person you miss isn't actually the person who hurt you, but a version of them that only ever lived inside your head? Because the truth is, one of the most devastating things about love is that it rarely ends when someone leaves. It ends when the illusion finally breaks, and that illusion is powerful because we don't just fall for people. We fall for stories. We fall for meanings. We fall for futures our minds secretly write the moment someone makes us feel seen, understood, or less alone. And what no one prepares you for is how easily attraction turns into imagination, how a few kind moments can convince us someone is capable of becoming everything we've ever needed. So we start ignoring what's actually happening in front of us. We ignore the inconsistency, the emotional distance, the silence that lasts a little too long, the apologies that never turn into change, because we tell ourselves a comforting lie that sounds like hope. They're just going through something, they'll grow, they don't mean to hurt me, and slowly, without realizing it, we stop loving who they are and start loving who they could be. And here's the question I want you to sit with and answer honestly in the comments, because it might reframe every relationship you've ever had. If someone shows you exactly who they are again and again, why do we keep believing a version of them they've never shown us? And the answer is uncomfortable because it forces us to look inward. Because falling for the idea instead of the person often has less to do with them and more to do with us, with our fear of starting over, our fear of being alone, our belief that love must be intense, complicated, and painful to be real. So we romanticize emotional unavailability, we confuse anxiety with passion, we mistake inconsistency for mystery, and we cling to potential because potential feels safer than accepting that someone simply cannot love us the way we love them. And the danger is subtle but destructive, because loving potential requires patience without boundaries, hope without evidence, and sacrifice without reciprocity, which slowly erodes your self-worth until one day you don't even recognize the person you've become, someone who explains away hurt, waits longer than they should, and questions whether they're asking for too much when in reality they're asking the wrong person. And the most painful part isn't the breakup or the distance or the silence, it's the mourning of the future you rehearsed in your mind, the conversations you never got to have, the growth you believed would happen, the version of them you kept alive long after they showed you who they were. And this is why letting go feels so brutal, because you're not just losing them, you're losing the fantasy, and fantasies are hard to bury because they never technically failed. They just never existed. But here's the shift that changes everything. Real love does not require you to imagine a better version of someone. It does not demand constant forgiveness for the same wounds. It does not make you feel anxious more than safe. Real love is consistent even when it's imperfect. It shows up even when it's inconvenient. It doesn't need to be decoded. And the moment you stop falling in love with ideas, imagined futures, and emotional promises that never materialize is the moment you finally create space for a connection that doesn't need to be fixed to be right. So if this resonated with you, if you've ever felt called out by these words, take a second to like this video so it reaches someone who might be silently stuck loving a version of someone that doesn't exist. Subscribe to the channel if you want more conversations that go beneath surface level advice and into the truths we usually avoid, and tell me in the comments, honestly, what was harder for you, letting go of the person or letting go of the idea of them? Because your answer might be the mirror someone else desperately needs tonight. Have you ever looked at someone you once loved and wondered how everything fell apart so quietly? Because the truth is, most heartbreak doesn't come from betrayal or cruelty. It comes from realizing that the person you were fighting for was never fully real, that what you loved wasn't them but the version of them your mind carefully created. And this is uncomfortable to admit because it forces us to confront a painful reality. We often fall in love with an idea, not a human being, and the shock of that realization usually hits late at night when you're replaying conversations, scrolling through old photos, or asking yourself why you stayed so long when the signs were always there. Because from the beginning your brain wasn't just observing who they were, it was filling in the gaps with hope, potential, and unmet emotional needs, turning small gestures into promises, turning inconsistency into mystery, turning emotional distance into something you believed love could fix. And this happens because we are wired to search for meaning, for connection, for a story where love wins. So when someone makes us feel seen even briefly, we attach a future to them that they never agreed to live out. And here's the question I want you to honestly answer in the comments, because it might change how you see your past relationships forever. Did you love them, or did you love who you believed they could become? And if that question makes you uncomfortable, that's exactly why it matters. Because loving potential is dangerous. Potential doesn't communicate better with time. Potential doesn't suddenly become emotionally available. Potential doesn't show up consistently when life gets hard. Only people do. And when someone shows you who they are through their actions, silence, and patterns, Believing in the idea of them is often a way of protecting ourselves from the fear of starting over, from loneliness, or from admitting that love alone isn't enough. And slowly, without noticing, you begin shrinking, explaining away pain, lowering expectations, waiting for a version of them that lives only in your head, until one day you wake up exhausted, not because you loved too much, but because you loved the wrong thing. And the hardest part isn't letting go of the person, it's mourning the future you imagined with them, the conversations that never happened, the growth that never came, the safety you hoped they'd eventually provide. And this is why so many people stay longer than they should, because letting go of an idea feels like admitting failure. But it's not failure, it's clarity, and clarity is painful before it's freeing. Because real love doesn't require you to constantly reinterpret someone's behavior, real love doesn't confuse you, drain you, or make you question your worth. It's consistent, it's calm, it's present. And the moment you stop falling in love with imagined versions of people is the moment you finally make room for someone who doesn't need to be rewritten to be right for you. So if this message resonated with you even a little, take a second to like the video so it reaches someone who's silently struggling with the same realization. Subscribe to the channel if you want more conversations that go deeper than surface-level advice, and tell me this honestly in the comments. What was harder for you, letting go of the person, or letting go of the idea of them? Because your answer might be exactly what someone else needs to hear tonight.